Hi, everyone, and welcome to an exclusive podcast with myself and Fraser Spinney. Fraser is a football analyst and covers Southampton. First of all, mate, thanks for joining. How are you?
No, thanks for having me. I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Busy time, and it's silly time in the window, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, especially in the Premier League.
Let's get into things then. So, Romeo Lavia, there's plenty of talk that Liverpool are in for his signature this summer, as are other clubs. I haven't seen too much of him, which is the reason you're here, basically. So, um, tell us about him. So, why on earth would Liverpool spend £50 million on somebody, let's say, that's just been relegated from the Premier League, which seems very harsh, by the way. But why is his fee so high?
No, yeah, it's a good question, and I think one of the key things to point out is that um, Lavia was one of the very very few positives of a very bad season. I mean, when he joined, he was hadn't played a senior game and joined when he was 18, and everyone sort of assumed he was coming in as an Oriol Romeu sort of to learn off him and sort of. But then all of a sudden he started the first game of the season away at Tottenham in Romeu's favourite sort of deep line midfield role, and Romeu was forced to play further forward, which was very unnatural for him. Such was how good Lavia was in pre-season, and he's honestly he's so good. I mean, for a player so young, I mean he's just turned 19, like I say, it's his first season. The composure that he has and the sort of way he's just completely unfazed by big games. I say big games, Madeline, but I'm talking like relegation back games, like big games in terms of in the negative end of the table where a lot of players, especially his age, shy away, and he just always shows for the ball. He's incredibly good. One of his biggest assets for me is he's just so press resistant. I mean, he plays as that sort of anchor of the midfield, and a lot of players sort of don't want to take the ball in when they're marked in those areas or in tight areas there, but he's so good at using his body or like feinting or just taking a touch away from his player, and he's very comfortable receiving the ball when he's marked because he knows he backs his ability to sort of get out of those situations. Yeah, like he's very good at taking the ball. His footwork's very good. I mean, I've compared him to before to the former Spurs midfielder Moussa Dembele. Not in terms of necessarily stature, but just his ability to sort of glide past players. And it's quite rare, I think, that you really look forward to watching a sort of defensive midfield player. But when he's just exciting, even though he plays that sort of deeper role, he's incredibly good at 1v1 duels, whether that's defensively or offensively. And he's very, very dynamic and quick and good across the ground. And his reading of the game for someone so young is pretty incredible as well. I mean, the amount of interceptions and sort of challenges he just nicks in because he's read it already before it's happened. He was almost, but bearing in mind he's so young, he was almost too clever for the rest of our team last season, which is just, I mean, he's a product of the Man City Academy, which obviously is proven a bit of a productive sort of relationship for Southampton with a lot of their young players sort of coming across because we've shown they get first team football. But yeah, I mean, he's played for Belgium already. He's played majority of games last season. If he hadn't got injured, I think we would have had a much better chance of going up. He did have a hamstring injury, which kept him out for about 6 weeks from October onwards. And we just sort of started playing well with him. And it was that period where Hasselhoff got sacked was while Lavia was out injured. So you sort of think what might have happened if he hadn't got injured. He's very dynamic, very quick, and I think he sort of suits the Jurgen Klopp team down to the ground in the midfield because he's just so dynamic.
Well, obviously we have Fabinho in that position at the moment, who has got a couple of years left on his contract, but also had a mixed season for us, let's say, last season. Started to come and go at the end. Would you say it'd be competition for Fabinho, or do you think that he will come to Liverpool to learn for a little short while and then, like you said, he could just force his way into the side based on his current ability?
I think the idea probably from Liverpool and is probably to sign him as a sort of to learn off Fabinho, but I don't think Lavia will settle for that, to be honest. It's such as his ability and sort of his hunger. It seems from sort of looking in his hunger, and I don't think he'd be happy to sit on the bench for any club that he moves to. I mean, there's interest from all the top clubs that sort of sniff around, and it seems Liverpool's interest is the strongest at the moment. But I don't think he's going to go anywhere if he doesn't think he's going to be playing football. I guess you have with his age, you have the luxury that he doesn't necessarily have to play straight away. He still have a very, very successful career if he spends the season sort of learning from Fabinho. But I think although they play the same position, I think he offers something very different to Fabinho. And in fact, Fabinho, I see it as, I mean, like you say, he had an indifferent season last season. And at times it looked like his legs just sort of giving up on him a little bit at times. But I think Lavia's the complete opposite of that. And obviously some of that's his age. He's very young, but he's very quick across the ground and very sort of dynamic. And Fabinho progresses the ball a lot through his passing, whereas Lavia is very good at carrying the ball up the pitch. And Lavia takes more risks than Fabinho, which is maybe I say that in a positive way, but also it could, in a team like yourself, Liverpool, where Fabinho's job is a very specific job, and his job is to keep the ball moving, get it effectively to the better players, the attacking players. And Lavia, and it might be because at Southampton he had to take more responsibility on the ball because he didn't have necessarily those better players to go and give the ball to, like your Salahs and the like. But obviously at Southampton you don't have a Salah, but I think it'd be a good option. Like, it wouldn't just be a like for like. I think you can sort of or Liverpool can use him how they sort of see fit, and some games may suit Fabinho a bit better, whereas some games might suit Lavia a bit better. And it's just, I guess, but there's not many players better to learn from than Fabinho for Lavia. I don't know. I can't really see them ever playing together. But one or the other, I think they offer enough different things to both be useful in a squad and not just be sort of one phases out the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. I've seen a couple of clips of him. Like I said, I haven't seen too much of him, but what I have seen, I've been really impressed. I think Arsenal was the standout game that I actually seen him live and thought, wow, who is this kid? For a side that was, like you said, battling relegation, he stood out. And, not many players do take that responsibility, like you've said, especially at such a young age. So why do you think City are not activating that 40 million buyback clause that they have?
Rodri, to be honest. I mean, they have obviously this buyback clause option. Doesn't necessarily mean Lavia has to agree to it. And I think City's arguably the only team you can go to and probably say you're not going to play 95% of games there if you're Romeo Lavia, just because of Rodri. I mean, Calvin Phillips, I know he's had his injuries, but he's barely been a feature, has he? And he was sort of the Rodri backup, if you like. Rodri doesn't really get injured. He plays all the big games. I'd probably say he's the best holding midfielder in the Premier League currently. And I just think, it's been very quiet from City, which is a bit sort of suspicious. Maybe their targets lie elsewhere, with the likes of Gundogan sort of departing, and maybe Bernardo Silva as well. And yeah, it has been surprisingly quiet from a City perspective. Maybe they'll enter the race if it gets sort of closer. But yeah, I don't know the answer, to be honest. I think the interest from Liverpool certainly seems to be the strongest at the moment. And I think City might just have other priorities this window. But if you go to sort of Liverpool, I mean, Arsenal sort of interested. I've heard Chelsea as well. I mean, we signed him last summer. We played against Chelsea about 3 weeks later. Lavia was the best player on the pitch, and Chelsea bid 50 million for him. That was 3 weeks after we signed him. Like, I know Chelsea are a bit like to throw their money about, especially at the moment. But I think there's a lot of interest, and I think City are just sort of looking elsewhere at the moment, by the sounds of it.
Okay, so the price tag, it's obviously a hefty fee, like I mentioned earlier. Do you think it's a case of, for Southampton, of 50 million solid, or do you think they will negotiate the fee?
Yeah, it's strange because strangely, given the fact we've just been relegated, we're actually, all the talk about the club and all this noises are that we're a pretty strong position financially at the moment. I think where the new owners sort of came in about 18 months ago, they've made a lot of sort of mistakes, but financially they seem to have sort of looked after that side of things. And it sounds like, I mean, what I like about, given that we've sold so many players in the past, when maybe it would have been nice to sort of fight a bit harder to keep them, is that we don't seem to be budging on our valuations. I mean, we've said Lavia 50 million. I think Newcastle were looking at sniffing around Livramento and we're talking about 12 million, and we sort of went back and went, we're talking more 40 million, mate. So I don't think
I was surprised when I seen that Livramento price, £12 million. No.
I think they were trying to capitalise on A, the relegation, and B, the fact he's been out for a year of his ACL injury, but it was never ever going to happen. Same with Ward-Prowse. Ward-Prowse is, everyone's sort of, Southampton point of view is sort of going, we would never begrudge him a move now and all that, but teams are saying 20 million and we're saying 40, and we're not, doesn't sound like, unless I don't know what will happen if a player sort of starts to get sore itchy feet and tries to force a transfer, because that can make things difficult. But I don't see us really budging on the fee. I mean, the only sort of way I can see us budging the fee is if you sort of do a sort of deal with add-ons. But I think they would be sort of realistic ones. I mean, for a club of Liverpool side, a lot of the add-ons are realistic anyway, if it's sort of like linked to sort of silverware or anything like that. But I do think that given the fact he's so young, he's already in international, he's on a contract till 2027, I believe. So we've got no reason to sell him. And from his point of view as well, I mean, he when there's the sort of interest that you're talking about, he's going to be interested in making those moves. But at the same time, he doesn't have to necessarily rush anything. And I think the thing we've seen with all sorts of players, especially like you look at the Declan Rice situation, is people saying for years, oh, he's never an £100 million player. But that's what he's worth to West Ham. It's the same as us. Lavia is worth 50 million to us because we can get 50 million for him, and that's a great deal for us. And we say, like, thanks for your service, on your way. But if we keep him, our chances of getting promoted the first attempt go up massively. So we don't necessarily have to sell. I mean, it does get tricky when big clubs come sniffing around, especially when you've been relegated. And but I do think the fee's the fee by the sounds of it. And it doesn't sound like our board are too keen to lower those asking prices. They know Lavia's our biggest asset. Ward-Prowse is a big asset, but he's a bit cheap. And I actually think Ward-Prowse is one that could potentially get priced out of a move. And because there doesn't seem to be an interest in him that I think some people thought. But Lavia, there is that interest there. He's our biggest asset. The fact that likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, etc., also sniff around drives the price up as well. So I don't think that will get much lower. I mean, lowest I can see it ever dropping to is maybe 40. But I just think the fact that he could play, if he looks after himself and stays injury free, he could be your holding midfielder for the next 12 years. Like, I think the valuation sounds very high, but I think it's probably about right given the market at the moment.
Liverpool, last question. Liverpool have got a bit of a history of signing players for Southampton. Some have worked out better than others, I'll be honest. But what's the Saints' perspective on Liverpool potentially signing another one of the top players?
Yeah, I think it's a bit different this time where we're relegated. I think we can sort of accept that a lot of our players are going to leave, and I think I've been spoken to a few people about this, and myself personally as well, is I've sort of already made peace with the likes of Lavia, Ward-Prowse, etc. going. Like, you accept it and sort of move on. And I don't actually think anyone really begrudges the link to Liverpool for Lavia. I think the other thing with Lavia is I don't think Saints fans have had long enough to sort of grow attached to him, if that makes sense. But it's a very well trodden path. Let's not beat around the bush. There was areas where I think you signed sort of Lambert, Klein, Lallana, Lovren, all in pretty quick succession, and then Mane, and then it was a little bit. It gave us a little couple of years off, and then he stole Van Dijk from us. And I mean, he was always destined to. I think the Van Dijk saga left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth just because of where he went on strike and sort of that sort of element to it. But I think as time's gone on, I think that sort of bitterness towards Liverpool has sort of gone away. And there was a period where we were sort of. It was just before you sort of hit that period where you were challenging City and we'd beat you here and there, and it would always be nice to sort of get one over on you and stuff like that, especially that one where we were 2-0 up at St Mary's, and we won 3-2. Like, that was very sweet at the time. And I think the one where we beat you at Anfield when Lovren scored, and that was just after a lot of the players had gone there. And I mean, Saints fans love that, and obviously the Carabao Cup semi-final. But sorry, I started going on about the times we beat you because you've battered us a few times. Well, I don't think there's too much resentment with this one, and I think as time's gone on, there's sort of, I mean, Southampton fans aren't going to be buzzing that he's gone to Liverpool. Like, we're not going to paint it to be a perfect, like, an ideal situation, but I think if he's going to go somewhere, so why not Liverpool? And I think his development's in safer hands at Liverpool than it would be at certain other clubs up there as well. But if you want to give us like Bachetsis or whatever it's called on loan or something in replace for a swap, I mean, I'd take it. Although I think he's going to be a bit of a feature next season anyway, isn't he? So.
Yeah, I mean, the midfielders that we're linked with, there seems to be one after the other. I am quite interested to see how we do pan this out, because obviously we just signed Soboslai for 60 plus. We've obviously signed McAllister as well. If Lavia goes through, that's a complete rebuild within one window, which we wanted, but we're shocked by, because we don't spend money.
Hey, I thought you might get one in or two at push, but it looks like you really are just completely rebuilding that, which is needed. But I am surprised by it myself. Yeah.
So just while you mentioned it before, Van Dijk, obviously, let's take away all the transfer thing, what happened, and obviously the strike and all this stuff. When he was at Southampton, did you know he was destined for the top?
Yeah, undoubtedly, he was the most. The thing with Van Dijk at Southampton at times was, and he's got that sort of quite nonchalant sort of demeanour, but at times you could just tell he was bored. It was too easy for him. And actually, I think a common misconception, and I don't know your perspective on this, but people sort of assume that he turned world class when he was at Liverpool. He was already the best centre half in the league when he was at Saints. Just people weren't watching him, and he wasn't in a team that was sort of doing as well. He was already there, at least for a season before he went to you. He was already the best centre half in the league, and it was quite obvious for Saints fans would talk to sort of, or I would talk to like other fans, and they sort of would be like, "Oh yeah, he's all right," and then they'd watch and they'd be like, "Wow!" Like he was just that diagonal ball he used to play, and just he does it to Salah all the time, doesn't he? But he used to play that ball all the time, and it's just so good to watch. And it sort of got lost a bit last season, but that aura of him, like players knew they weren't beating Van Dijk before they even got out on the pitch. He's just had that presence, didn't he? And he had that at Southampton, and yeah, I knew we weren't going to keep holding him very long. Once he was good when he came, but he just suddenly just took it up that level, and then you knew he was just one of the best in the world. And so it's proven to be, and hopefully from Liverpool's perspective, he sort of refines that. I think with a bit more protection from midfield, I think you'll sort of see the best of Van Dijk again next season, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I haven't put it all down to it, because there's been times when he has been quite suspect where he hasn't really attacked the player as he should. In terms of obviously the previous seasons, he hasn't really had to do that, because you say his presence, his aura, no one really wants to try and get past him, because the likelihood was they couldn't. Where last season he seemed to lose a bit of the fear factor because he weren't really up to his levels, basically. Hopefully with the World Cup's gone now, we've had we will have a decent pre-season, that we do find them levels again, because like you said, for me in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like it in a Liverpool shirt. Obviously there might be top players around Europe, but Maldini's, Cannavaro's, all these type of players, but a footballing centre-half like him, he's the best I've seen by a mile. Right, let's call it a pod there, Fraser. I really appreciate your time coming on. First of all, thank you. And secondly, I wish Southampton all the best in coming up, because I can't bear Leicester. And I can't bear clubs like that. I actually like Southampton as a club, and it's a decent away day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for coming on.
Cheers.
Thanks to everyone for listening in to today's podcast, and thank you to our amazing guests. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Don't forget to follow us on social media, twitter.com/TheRoadEndPod, and on Instagram, Instagram/TheRoadEndPod.